Is there ever a time in your life where you just feel off balance, don't know what to do, don't know what you want? It's a time when we sort of begin to lose our own power. And it's in a time when we feel that we're maybe not enough. We get knocked off because we don't believe in ourselves and so on and so forth. It's a thing that happens to us all. So if it's happening to you right now, stop and just come on board and listen up because we got some exciting things happening. And today I want to welcome you all to Let's Get Real. My name is Glenda Kroll, and
Hey everyone, I'm Nicole Harvick, and as always, love my Wednesdays here. We do some magnificent work, in my opinion, here. And today is we've got another wonderful guest, and I'm really honored because I can call this lady my friend too. So it's always exciting, when you have a friend on that you've been friends with 10, 12 years. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about her before we get started. She's got so much knowledge that it's unbelievable. She's kind of my go-to girl sometimes when I need to be lifted up or when I just need someone to tell me, do I go right or left? She knows this stuff sometimes better than I know myself. So I'll just tell you that this gal has been licensed as a Dale Carnegie coach for 30 years. So what does that tell you about her? That's dedication, that's knowledge, that's wisdom. She has trained in 32 countries. So, yeah, she's been around, She speaks 3 languages. She was the Phoenix Woman of the Year in 2019. She's founder of the Dream Team, which she's going to tell us about. Her mission, helping people connect to their magnificence. And I think that's so important because, you just talked about, Glenda, people maybe being lost or not. We are all magnificent in our own special way. We all have special abilities. We all have we're here for a special purpose. Sometimes we don't know what it is yet, but we can always feel something inside of us drawing us to that. And so I want to introduce Sandra Saenz, and she's going to teach us about our magnificence.
Hi, guys. Hey,
hi.
Nicole. Hey, Glenda. Oh my God, it's so good to see you guys.
Thank you
Oh,
very much for joining us today. I'm really excited to learn so much more, and being involved with Dale Carnegie is just absolutely exquisite. So maybe begin by that. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
It has been such a blessing to be involved with such a huge organization, right? Dale Carnegie Institute is one of the oldest training institutes in the world. I think they're in over 83 countries now,
wow.
and it's a kind of a funny story because that was not my plan to be a trainer, right? A business trainer and a trainer, a leadership trainer, and I do sales, leadership. You get certified in different things with Dale Carnegie. Was not my plan at all. I was a business executive working in advertising. I was living in Budapest.
Wow.
That's a story in itself. Yeah, I'm just a girl from Texas. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I now live in San Diego, aka Paradise. I think it's Paradise. I was living in Budapest, and I was coaching some of my teams. I was supervising 8 countries. And so picture this, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm in Budapest. We're having red wine, pizza, and I'm with like 4 Hungarian creatives working at an ad agency. And they were working on a pitch. In advertising, it's all about winning the pitch, winning
Yeah.
the client. And it was a pitch for Burger King. They were going to open the first Burger King in Budapest. There was no Burger King there. It was in the
Wow.
90s. And I would do anything to keep my creative team there working and inspired. So I bought them pizza, made them popcorn, red wine, whatever. And somebody said, "You should be a trainer." And I said, "Why?" And so what I was doing is I would stay 2 or 3 nights a week and do classes for my teams on how to present their brilliant ideas. Like they had brilliant ideas and they weren't winning the pitch. Several times it happened. And so I went and watched them once. And the reason was they weren't confident. in themselves
Oh,
presenting it, even
yeah.
though the idea was better than the other ad agency that won. So it's all about how you communicate it. You know how somebody can be a genius. There's geniuses in the world, but if
Yeah,
you can't communicate your idea
sure.
clearly, right? So that it shows the benefit for the others, it just stays here. And that's what was happening. So I started doing evening classes 2 or 3 nights a week. And that's when somebody said, you should be a trainer. So I remembered that. And I went home for Christmas from Budapest to Texas. And because there was no training company in Budapest at that time. And I looked it up. What's the best training company in the world? And it was Dale Carnegie. And so I looked it up when I was in San Antonio. There was a class going on. I was only there for 2 weeks, right, to visit my mom and my family. And there was a class going on that week. So I called and explained. And so they said, why don't you come as a guest? So I went as a guest and I participated, of course, because I can't keep my mouth shut. At the end of the class, the owner happened to be there. It was like a Tuesday night. And he said, you should be one of our trainers. And I said, I live in Budapest, Hungary. So long story short, he gave me a tip that there was one in Vienna. He said, there's a new franchise in Vienna, Austria. And Vienna was 2.5 hours away from Budapest, where I lived. I said, I don't live in Vienna. I live in Budapest. But, when someone plants a seed like that, people, when they observe you, that's another thing about success. It's very important to pick up these golden nuggets of insight. So I never forgot it, right? That's first that somebody said I should be a trainer. Then that he said, there's one in Vienna. It's only 2.5 hours away. So I called. There was a training going on. I signed up. Right before I signed up, I called to confirm because I'm going to drive 2.5 hours in the snow. I'm from Texas. I've never driven in the snow. And she
Okay,
said,
great.
yeah. She said, how good is your German? And I said, German? Right? And she said, yeah, well, it's in Vienna. It's on Austria. So the whole class is in German.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, I didn't even think about that. Because I have no limits in my brain. And I joked about it. And I said, oh, that's too bad because I'm learning Hungarian, which is even more difficult than German. And I speak English and Spanish. And she goes, wait a minute, you speak Spanish? And I said, yeah. And she said, it happens to be that trainer who's teaching that class, his name is Robert, and his mother is from Spain, and he speaks fluent Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And so I took that as a sign, and so I went.
It definitely was a sign.
Don't you think that's amazing?
Oh, no. Like, I believe in things happen that should be happening or supposed to be happening. So, yeah.
And here's the thing, Glenda, this happens to us daily.
All the time.
What happens is we're not awake to it.
Right.
There's a lot of people that would have said, oh, it's in German. Okay, never mind. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And so I went. And so I went for 12 weeks. I think it was every Tuesday. I drove 2.5 hours, took the class. And after the class, that trainer said, you need to be a Dale Carnegie trainer. So I became a Dale Carnegie trainer. I became the first. I didn't know any of this, right? He goes, you do realize you would be the first American that ever gets certified in Vienna.
Wow.
I said, no, I didn't know that. I just thought it was so fun. And it was right in my wheelhouse, right? Because it's about connecting with people and helping them see how brilliant they are.
Wow.
So he said, I don't know how much training we can get you as a paid trainer because you don't speak German, but let's try it. So I went through it's about a 1.5-year process. The first year I had more trainings than any other trainer in the country.
Wow.
I didn't know that was going to happen. He didn't, because a lot of the big companies, IBM, American Express, big, global companies wanted the leadership training to be, or sales to be in English with a native English speaker. They all spoke English, but they liked that. And I, put my spin on it. I'm from Texas, so I like everything to be big and fun. And so my leadership trainings, I had rubber chickens, I had dice, I had balls, I had games to prove certain concepts right? Because I believe in experiential learning. And
Absolutely.
so that took me to 32 countries. Like
Wow.
this body
Wow.
has been to 32 countries, not online. And so that changed my whole world. This is just from staying late to teach my teams how to present. My whole trajectory changed.
Wow. And
Well,
I'm curious, how did you, a little girl from San Antonio, how did you end up in Europe to begin with?
This is another thing about listening to these golden nuggets, because that wasn't my plan. I was a business executive. I was doing fine, right? I was, I think I was like 29, 30, and I was working for an environmental consulting company as their business director, business development. So I've always been in communication, marketing, this industry, and EPA was one of my big clients. And so I would fly to Washington and meet with clients with my boss. And on one of the trips, I had to go alone. And so I think a flight was canceled or something. Again, synchronicity, right? So I had to stay over an extra night. And I thought, well, while I'm here, I'll meet with some of our current clients. And I met with some. And when they found out what we did, it was doing environmental consulting for in big, huge buildings that may be contaminated. So if there's asbestos, lead-based paint, things like very technical, not my world at all, right? But I can communicate the benefits of it. See? And so he just happened to have somebody there from the Hungarian embassy. And I thought, oh, that would be cool. We could do work, I remember one of the board meetings, the boss had said, oh, knowing Sandra, she got us work in California, she got us work in Florida, she'll probably get us work, I don't know if the US is big enough. And that stuck in my head. And so, yeah. And I said, do you guys need work? And so during that time, there was a lot of privatization, it was opening up. Central Eastern Europe was opening up. I'm just a girl from San Antonio, Texas. I don't even know where Budapest is. Like I had to look at a map. It's tiny. Hungary's tiny. But what's the key about Hungary is it's right in the center. It's right in the center. All these countries beautiful countries surrounded. Italy, Austria, right? So long story short, I stayed. That evening, they had a cocktail party at the embassy, the Hungarian embassy. I went, I met a consultant, and I got us our first project in Budapest. Yeah. And so then I was going to Budapest, like let's say 3 or 4 times the first year. So I'm having a glass of wine, sitting on the Danube with the client, like on a restaurant that's on the Danube, like looking at the water. Wow. And he said, every time you come, you always say, I love Budapest. I love Europe. Why don't you just move here? And I didn't have an answer. Why not? And so, how you can just feel it in your heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I felt. I thought,
that's right.
Yeah. And I said, well, I've got a great job. I had just gotten to the point where I'd gotten my BMW convertible, which was one of my big, whatever goals. And I had a nice house, and I had it timed because I traveled a lot, so that the nearby dry cleaning place, I'd drive my Beamer, press the glove box, the not hood, but the trunk would rise up. They would take my clothes out. I didn't even have to get out of the car, and put the new ones in, and I'd be off on my way. So I just had it all perfect.
You had it all planned out.
She was dialed in at that point.
You know how when you get to that point in your life when, okay, this is exactly what I worked for and
envisioned, and yeah.
But what happens? Somebody says something like that, like, why don't you just move here? And within a few days, I decided, yeah, I could do that. That would be a great adventure. When I went and told my company, they were like, you're going to what? You're going to move to Budapest? And my whole family from Texas thought I was nuts. My sister's first question is, what are you going to eat? That was her
Not
first.
how are you going to get there? Not where are you going to live?
Very
Who's going to watch
sweet,
over you?
exactly.
Who are you
I
going to
don't
eat?
know. She said, I don't know about those countries, whatever, right? And yeah, so I went for a project that was going to be about a year and a half. He gave me a subcontract, and that year and a half turned into about 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Magnificent.
What an adventure.
But again, it's because if you're awake and open to it, I believe that if you take the first step, the universe will take the next 18.
Yeah.
All you have to do
Right?
is show them that you're in. I'm in. Pick me. Done.
Yes.
It's all
Yeah.
taken care of. I truly believe that as well.
But you got to listen, right? You got to listen to
Yes.
that voice, that whatever's in there, and good for you for taking action on that little bit of that little noise that's happening in there in you.
Yeah. Even just describing it to you guys now, it brings back a lot of memories about, and a lot of people think, oh, well, you were 31, so it must have been much easier to make a decision like that is such a huge life shift. But I think that can happen at any time in your life, right?
I think so too.
If you have faith in three things, right? Yourself, the process, and the universe.
Yes.
And that's kind of all one thing, I believe. I
Yes.
believe
It all ties in. Absolutely.
It all ties in.
And age is a number. Age, they have put, all these little things to hold you back on age. And it's really quite unfair. And I've never let it hold me back. Sandra, I know you haven't. Glenda, I know you haven't. So let's teach everyone age is just a number that someone,
And let's talk about that for a second, because so many times, and I hear it all the time, and it drives me crazy when I hear that.
Yes.
Oh, I'm too old. I can't do that now. I can't change my life. I can't start a new job. I'm just too old.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about, having the confidence in yourself. And here's the thing, you don't even need the confidence in yourself. If you can get somebody who will be there for you, a mentor, a coach, or somebody like that, that will hold space for you to allow you to build up on your own confidence, so then you can take over once you feel that confidence, because you only get the confidence once you do things. And once you see that you're successful, then you start to feel that confidence within yourself.
Yes. And you can tap into that easier than you think.
Right.
Right? I heard somebody talking about it, and I loved this phrase, tap into your dream. You need to touch your dream. For example, the example he gave was he wanted to live in a like a luxury kind of place, but they weren't living in a luxury place. He said, so him and his wife would go to luxury hotels, like for a weekend or even 1 or 2 nights, even just for dinner, a place they usually couldn't afford, right? I'm talking like the Ritz, right? And go and stay there, like even for one night, and have a really nice dinner. So when you tune in to these things, then you can more easily be in that state of being. Does that make sense?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Instead of just visualizing it, you can visualize it, of course. And I believe visualizing it, writing it, talking about it. And then the last level is having it witnessed when you talk about it. That's very powerful when you have a goal, when you have an objective. But what he did was he went out and did that.
So
Right.
it's a
Great idea.
Well, that's the whole thing. You have to feel it before it comes to you. So he immersed himself in that feel. This feels good. This feels nice.
Yes.
This is what I can, he got familiar with it.
Yes.
And then is when the magic happens.
Yes. So touching the dream, however you want to do that, right? If it's, going to Spain, but you can't go to Spain, go to a restaurant that is all about Spain, where you eat tapas. You know what I mean? Talk to people, and you can immerse yourself in that feeling. You can feel your way to manifest something. Really, it's not just about the visualizing, which I think a lot of people stay stuck in that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the manifestations when you are in that state of mind of higher consciousness and believe in the universe, believe in yourself, know what you want, it's going to happen much faster.
Yes.
Because you're already there on another dimension. They say there's that version of you somewhere else. So
Yes.
you're just finding that. You're finding that version and making it happen.
That's right. It's like plugging into it.
Yeah.
What, for me, I don't know why. I always say I'm tuned in, tapped in, turned on. I plug into it.
It's also about getting more clear. So let's talk about getting clear with things because, like I mentioned to you just earlier, the biggest problem is people don't know what they want. And if you don't know what you want, and then, that starts the whole hassle of how do you get clear if you don't know what you want? So let's talk a little bit about going in where we got to start.
That's right. And that is the first step. On my business cards, it says clarity is power, because that's really what I believe. I don't think it's just knowledge. I don't even think it's experience. It's being clear on three things: who you are, really who you are, right? What are your magnificent strengths? What you want to contribute to the world, and where you want to be, like where you want to be. And that changes, right? When I was 30, that's different. My definition of who I want to be is very different from what it is now, right? My definition of success is very different. So I ask questions around that, right? What would success look like in your world? And this thing on self-confidence, because it is very important. It's very important. And it ties in with the clarity because it has to do with the comfort zone, all these C's: clarity, comfort zone, confidence. And to get out of the comfort zone, because outside of the comfort zone, like moving to Budapest or driving to Vienna in the snow, right? That's where the magic is. That's really where the magic is. Because when you go there, that's when you discover, oh, I didn't know I could do, like, I didn't know I could do that. I really didn't know. It was a whole other, like, it was such an extreme. I guess I needed to see that for myself. I don't know. So a good thing to do, right, is do things that are outside of your comfort zone, because that'll build confidence. But not only that, it'll be really fun, but it will also give your every memory cell of your body the message that you are more than you think you are.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. And that's very important. So we have to be clear what we want, where we want to go, and what we want to contribute. Once we have those things that are clear, Eve, I was going to say nothing can stop you and no one can stop you. But guess what? Not even you can stop you. Not even your own fears. There's this, the traditional, let's say, textbooks, whatever. Now nobody has textbooks, but the traditional knowledge of going out of your comfort zone, there's different levels. So you're in comfort zone is the first one. The next is the fear zone. Yeah. The next is learning zone. And the next is success. Okay. And I believe, and I did a little video on it, from fear. So you go from comfort to fear to experience or practice, right? I don't even think you have to go from comfort to fear. I think you can pass that if you're in clarity.
Yes.
And that story.
If you know what it is and what you want, there's no fear there. Right. It's when you don't know, well, should I do this or should I do that? What if I do that? But if you know exactly what you want, that's when the universe starts working for you.
Yes. If I redid it's like, an image, these images that have bubbles, right? That have comfort, fear, whatever.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
And I redid it so that it's comfort and clarity is the next zone.
I like that.
So you don't go through fear. And I've experienced that. I experienced that when I decided to be a trainer, and I experienced it when I decided to move to Budapest. I was not afraid at all. Now, was it easy? No. Did I find out a lot of things the first year I was there that were really, really hard? Yes.
Of course.
You
Yes.
know,
But
I had moments of, oh my gosh, what have I done? You know, I went to the grocery store to buy, nobody spoke English at that time. A lot of people didn't speak English. There was no big grocery stores. I went to the little whatever shop the downstairs and to buy something. And I didn't know if it was sugar, flour, rat poison. I just knew it was white powder. Can you imagine? So I'm like doing hand gestures to figure out how to get whatever. I think I needed sugar at that time. And I thought, inside, I was like, what have I done? I had my house and my Beamer, and now I remember calling my house to say hi to my mom and my sister. You know, you can be on the phone, but you hear what they're saying if they're talking to the other people in the room. I heard her say, Mom, she doesn't even have a TV. The first year I didn't, because there was no English channel, so I didn't need it.
yeah,
Oh,
So I went to the ballet. I went to operas. I've never been to so many ballets and operas in my life
I love it.
because it was inexpensive, you know. So if you are clear, really who you are and what you want, right, then there is no fear. The fear just kind of dissolves, even
And
if
when
you've never done it.
and when you have also an end goal, so it doesn't have to be that it has to be 100%, but you have a vision, a clear idea somewhat of what you're looking to achieve or go where you're supposed to get to, then you go along that path. And then as it comes closer, or as you go through things, you start to become more understanding of what you really want, where
Yeah,
you're actually going.
that's a very good point you're mentioning, because what happens is the end vision morphs sometimes,
Mhm.
right? As you go, you just go, oh, was it really that I wanted? Maybe it wasn't really the convertible, it was the freedom,
Yeah.
see, the energy of freedom that I wanted. Because in Hungary or Vienna, I lived in both at some point when I was there. I didn't have one because they were dangerous. Those are smaller countries, so they steal cars very easily because
Mm.
there's a border of another country 2 hours away, another country. So I thought, oh, I'll just get one. And they're like, oh, no, 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 your car will be gone. So what my soul really wanted, right, was more the adventure and the freedom. But I may not have known that if I hadn't taken the first step. So just taking that first step is crucial. And that's what I'm here to help people with, right? Because we've been programmed to play it safe, to have a plan, to worry about your retirement, to blah, 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 blah. It
yeah.
doesn't mean that that's not good. It is. I believe it is.
Yes.
But it's important to listen to this,
Oh, your
not
true
just
center.
this.
Yeah, the heart. So after all those years there, you finally made your way back home to the US. Did
Yes.
you end up in Arizona then, or did you go back to Texas?
I ended up in Arizona because while I was gone for 20 years, my little brother, there's four of us, moved to Phoenix to do his sports. He's a sportscaster
Yes,
on Fox
I've
10.
I have seen him.
It's a big deal. My little brother. And then my mom moved, and then my brothers and sisters moved. So by the time I wanted to come back to the States, they were all in Arizona. So I moved to Arizona and I lived there for a while, 8-9 years. And I was always traveling to the beach because I love the water and I love that kind of energy and the weather and everything. I was always traveling to San Diego. And about 4 years ago, during all that COVID business, again, I did something so a lot of the things that I've done are not very logical. Like they're not
Yeah,
to
that's
the average person, but it just seemed like I just follow this. So yeah, everybody was at home, right? Working from home. I was doing my leadership classes online on Zoom, and my work did not get interrupted at all. I just immediately said, okay, well, we're not going to meet in the conference room. Here's the link, blah, blah, blah. So it's 24
Yeah.
people, 2 groups. But I was very lonely because in Arizona, if it's 120 degrees and you can't be with other people because of COVID,
Yes.
and you can't be outside really. If you're outside, your body's in the pool, like up to here. Otherwise, you just don't survive. And I kept coming to San Diego, and I thought, that's really what I want. I want to be able to walk to the water anytime I want. And so I started looking, and within 6 weeks, I found a place, and I sold my 4-bedroom house and bought a 1-bedroom in San Diego. And
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear about your Phoenix Woman of the Year. And I want to hear about you're the founder of Dream Team Communications.
Yeah. So Dream Team Communications, I founded while I was in Hungary. I had a place in Vienna and one in Budapest. So these are two places that are about 2.5 hours, three hours away from each other. Because when I was working in advertising, they wanted me to be there more, and the headquarters was in Vienna. This was before I left advertising and became a full-fledged Dale Carnegie trainer. And they said, well, what if we get you an apartment? I mean, these things happen to me. Can you believe that? And I was like,
I do.
Vienna, Ogilvy, and Mather. And I said, but I live in Budapest. He goes, well, what if we would get you an apartment? Then would you be here half of the week? And again, like I guess I was 40 at that time. A girl from Texas, when you say that, I'm like, okay, well, I could do that.
And then you say yeehaw.
I mean, these are things that really happened. And he said, okay, well, you just go find one. And then when you're not using it, we can use it for our corporate clients, which was great. So it was a win-win. So from that, I kept doing the Dale Carnegie trainings. And then I realized a lot of my clients needed more content, more topics that were maybe more holistic, a little bit more what I'm doing now, right? About releasing old patterns in order to put in the new patterns that are now serving you to get to where you want to go. And so I founded Dream Team Communications so that I could do my own content. And I was getting requests of doing one-on-one coaching. And so I did that under Dream Team Communications, and that just blossomed and became bigger. And then other companies could hire me under Dream Team Communications. And so that's my company now. And so now I do it in person and I do it online, right? And so now it's groups and one-on-one. And when I do both, that's very powerful because there are certain things that come to us, right? That are, it's better to in a collaborative atmosphere. Absolutely. But there are other things. Yeah, they would message me, can I have a session in private? Because I don't want to talk about this in front of my team, for example. And so that's how the coaching came to be as well. So now I'm certified as a coach and a trainer via Dale Carnegie. But I use my system. I use a lot of my systems.
So let's talk about what you would be saying to someone on your dream team about getting the clarity and releasing some of the, what has the programming that we have all been programmed to. Maybe we can talk a little bit about programming first, because people don't realize that they have actually been programmed early in life.
Yes. I have some assessments that I use, but there's even just a simple question, right? Like if you had all the courage that you wanted, what would your life look like? If you were brave, what would your day look like? Just a simple question like that, people will immediately have an answer. They would say, oh, well, I would, whatever, I would live in Europe, or I would be teaching meditation or whatever. So right there, okay, well, let's start exploring that. So it's a little bit about asking very, I call them probing questions, discovery questions, right? And I go through with what patterns, a lot of times, not just business people, everybody, we make lists, right? Lists of things we want to do in your life, but even this week or this day. Here's what we don't do. usually. Making a list of things you should not be doing and you want to release. What are things I want to stop doing? That question right there, that's a whole day long workshop. What are things I want to stop doing? And what you do when you make a list, whether it's mental or verbal or written,
Yeah.
what happens is you realize in that list there are some similarities. So there's patterns. There will be some patterns, like a lot of them. I'll give you an example, is people who keep doing things only for the sole benefit of others. I'm not saying it's not good to be generous and other-centric. That's a good leader. However, if we do it without it being an even energy exchange, then it'll run out, right? You're not filling it up again. So it's got to be reciprocal, right? There's actually a term called the angry giver of people in time management that spread themselves too thin. You know people like this. We've
Yeah.
been people like this.
Yeah.
We have been that, right? Well,
Lived through it. Yeah, of course.
does that sound familiar, right? When
Yeah. The responsibilities that sometimes come on in life.
yes. And so we take on things that maybe are not ours to take on. And even more than that, on a metaphysical level, on a quantum physics level,
Right.
we take on things that could interrupt somebody else's development because we thought we could do it better or faster or save them some angst. Well, maybe they want to go through that experience. Maybe their soul wants to go through that experience.
Or they need to go through that experience.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Usually
Part of the
we know that.
development. Yeah.
Right. So I ask things like that, what do we want to stop doing? What would you be doing if you were brave? What would you do? And usually they're not so easy questions. Some are painful, but there's a lot of insight that comes out because your soul already knows. It already knows. What happens is we don't listen because we want to do what's in the comfort zone because this fear zone is here. So we need to get past the fear, just erase it and go to the clarity zone. And that's really the key, right? And so what happens when you make this list and you talk about it is you realize some patterns of behavior that you've been doing that maybe they served you when you were whatever, 25 or when you had that job and it did serve you, right? One of mine was working really hard, harder than anybody on my team so that I could get ahead or whatever. That doesn't serve me anymore, right? Maybe it served me then, but there's little habits that you will find in your behavior that maybe they really served you well last year, 10 years ago, that are interrupting your progress, your development. And they're actually interrupting your joy. And it's a lot of times we do things kind of on autopilot. We don't even know that we're still doing it. It happens in business and it happens with groups. I'll ask, okay, you guys have a meeting every Tuesday. You keep complaining about this meeting every Tuesday at 9. What is the meeting for? I will ask. And there'll be silence. And I'll say, okay, so you guys have been complaining about this 1.5 hour meeting. What is the purpose? I'll reword it. They still won't know. We just always had a meeting Tuesday at 9. So we do that as people too.
Yeah.
We do that as people. Well, I've always been going to whatever store, car wash, whatever it is, right? I just always go there every Wednesday. Is it serving you in what you want now? Because even if we look at it on a micro scale, what the three of us and whoever's watching, what you know right now, today, March 20th at 12:40 p.m. California time, what you know today is more than what you know yesterday at this exact time.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So why would you work with the same, right?
Yes.
For some people that work very logically, So then why would you use the same tools if you know already so much more?
And there's such a freedom in change. Once we talk about stepping over that fear, because then you kind of become limitless. What do I want to do next? I'm not afraid anymore.
Yes.
What does my heart tell me to become? What am I pulled towards? What sounds really amazing? And you
Yes.
can at least look into it instead of saying, I'm too old. I'm not comfortable. I'm afraid.
Or doing things like to experience. So doing, like I a lot of times suggest people to take up different hobbies or try them, go to groups and get exposed to different things and try it. And if there's something, there's something in you that goes, wow, that's it. And that's when you see a different character coming out of you. Something all of a sudden emerges.
That's touching the dream that's inside of you. It's like touching your magnificence. That's your inner voice, Glenda, what you just said. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was fun. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing.
Right.
I do things big, but not everybody has to move to the other side of the world to discover that they love freedom, right?
But you're from Texas. Texas does everything big.
Yeah, I never understood that phrase.
Yeah, you get it.
Less is more. No. More is more, people.
More.
Less is less, more is more. I go with the more. But you can do something small, very small. Like for some women, it's something as simple as we talked about the colors we wear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I would never wear red. So I've had somebody tell me, oh, no, I would never do that. Okay, well, just try it. See what happens. I took a course in Barcelona once that was a 5-day course. It was a self-development course. It was so cool. It was about the energy of color. And all the different colors vibrate at a different frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Makes kind of sense, right? And every day was a different color. So one color was red, one day was yellow, one day was blue. Can you imagine? One day was white. And you could feel we would behave differently. We'd wear the colors and we'd eat as much food in that color. And we would draw and paint in that color all day.
That's kind of cool. Yeah,
it was so cool. The day we wore white, everybody wore white. And we went out to lunch together. Everybody was talking to us because white is so open. It was so interesting. So something as simple as that, changing your hairstyle, changing the color you wear, sit in a different chair when you have breakfast that you've never sat in at your house.
Oh, yeah.
Be alone if you've never done it, whatever.
Yeah, like Wayne Dyer's thing. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, and it's so true.
Yes.
You're working on a project and you sit in a different area, all of a sudden new ideas come to mind.
Absolutely.
And it's all these little things are incredible changes that you can do to yourself.
Absolutely. Because you're reacting to the world differently. You're actually proactive instead of reactive. Right. You're being proactive, right? In leadership, that's one of the pillars is to be more proactive instead of reactive. When you're proactive, you're creating your own day and your own world every day, whether you know it or not. We're creating it right now, right? So might as well be proactive because then I get to do what I want to do. And so little things like that create a shift. If I don't know, if I do something completely different when I go to my group meetings that other people don't know, they've never seen me do. Like if I would wear, I don't know, yellow shoes that I've never worn and I wear them, they will react differently, right? So we'll have different conversations. I keep talking about clothes, but there's a lot of different things, right? There's a lot of different things. I remember I had the opportunity to do that a lot just because I went to a lot of different countries. So there was new things I had never, ever done before that I got to experience. And just like you said, Nicole, once you go there way outside, like here's your comfort zone and you go out there, then everything else is just easier. You're just not afraid anymore.
Right. That's absolutely true.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah,
So
if you would have told me a couple years ago that I was going to get in a U-Haul and drive across the country with my kid following me and a dog, 3,000 miles from home, I would have been like, there is no way. And I was like, I can do this. Others have done it. It's, it's not like I'm in the wilderness. There's highways.
Yes.
Just started it up and drove.
And so many people would never do that. I moved to San Diego without having one client in California. That was the big, my family was like, why would you do that when your clients are all in Arizona? Because there's lots of people out there.
Yes, absolutely. At least in San Diego, they didn't have to worry about what you ate.
Or what language, right? What language?
Right.
I went to the deep end of the pool in Budapest, I will say, but it's what the universe offered. So it's really important when these golden opportunities are presented to us, right? To take that leap of faith like you did, right? Like many of us have with different things we've done, and trust you and trust the process, that because it's going to be okay. Of course it's going to be okay. Of course I'm okay.
But
right? that stamp on it, that stamp of okay.
That's the biggest thing in what you just said. It's going to be okay. If we have, it's part of having faith in yourself that things, like for me, even when things are hard, I will come, or times are happening, and I'll say, I don't know how, but somehow it will work out, because things always work out. It's always been, and it's true.
Yeah.
And, so many people say, well, no, they don't always work out. And I say, well, if you have that faith, they will work out.
Yes.
You have to believe that it will work.
Yes.
So how do you expect people to believe when they have that other side of the coin in them? We've got those negative Nancys, right? That will always sit back and pull on the negative side of things, and then believing nothing's going to work. Nothing ever works.
Yeah. It's a shift. It's like a little switch in your brain, because even things, let's just go there. Okay, Glenda, let's just go there. Even things that you think, well, that didn't work out. Okay, well, what makes you feel that way? Well, it didn't turn out, the job wasn't what I expected it, and so now I had to get another job. Yeah. What did you glean off of that one, though? It happens with jobs, relationships, all kinds of decisions we make. So what if we just have that shift and flip that switch in our brain where it's not a mistake. There are no mistakes.
Exactly.
There are no mistakes. They're just choices. It just gives you the opportunity to make a different choice. Exactly. Just like there's no competition. I don't believe there's any competition. Doesn't even exist in my brain. They're just choices. Because there's no other Glenda Kroll on the planet right now that's just like you, that has the unique combination of gifts you're offering. So if Nicole Harvick doesn't offer those to the world right now, they're going to be lost forever. Because that doesn't exist. It only exists in your unique combination. So it wouldn't have existed if it wasn't meant to be shared, right? So there is no mistakes, really.
And that's what it's not failure, it's feedback.
Yeah.
It's just feedback.
I consider it as learned. So I can say from everything that I have that I have fallen on or mistaken through, or something didn't work out, it's been a huge learning.
Yes.
So from that learning, you can take your learns and you can really progress yourself into another whole level.
Absolutely. You have more tools in your toolbox.
Right. And if people can start to believe in that part, that shifts everything. So that starts with, let's go back again. When you were a little girl, how did you grow up? did you grow up when things happened that your parents knocked you down because there was a mistake or something happened? Or how did your mother look at things? Because that puts everything in place of where you see things.
Yes.
And if we don't change that way of looking at things, and we grow up with that same, the same type of outlook that she might have had, that is where we were just talking just before about it gets cemented into us. So that's where we need to start to learn how to release.
That's right. And that's where the release part comes in. That's why it's release and then renew and then recode. So you have one code, right? And so we're going to release a lot of that. The first step in that is what we've been talking about, and that is just to realize what they are. Like, you may not even realize there's still a program running there, right? I remember one when I was young. I was the oldest of four, and it was my dad used to tell me, nobody remembers number 2. You've got to be all A's and first. Nobody remembers number 2. So can you imagine, like, to a child, that gets ingrained in your brain, that had to be dissolved, because who cares? First of all, right? But as you grow up, or you've got to try harder, or whatever the different programming is,
right?
There's ways to do it. One is through realizing it, processing it. I do some energy work. I do tapping, all kinds of things that you release it from your memory cells in your body on an energetic level, but you also release it in your behavioral patterns, because a lot of times it's not that they're dormant. We're just on autopilot and don't realize, oh, I made that decision because my teacher in 2nd grade once told me that I could never, whatever. You see what I mean? Yeah. And those things are there.
Yes.
Whether we realize them or not. So there's a lot of releasing to do, then renewal, and then recode it to what we really want. And so I do a module called Rewriting Your Life Contract, because there's themes in our life. Some people have themes about health. There's people in their family or themselves that are always ill. There's always something.
Yeah.
Right? People like this. There's some themes about financial hardship, scarcity. It's always some kind of financial issue, right? There's some themes on abuse. Either you're the abuser or being abused. There's themes. That gets
carried on. Yeah.
Right? Betrayal themes, just themes. And so we identify the themes, and by the end of a couple of days, people know what their themes are. It's really interesting. And so just because you came in with that contract to learn forgiveness or whatever, doesn't mean it's not already complete. Just like relationships, right?
Yeah.
Let's go there too. Just because it's not even a learning, it's an expansion. That's a more general way to put it. Like, oh, I went down that road that was challenging, but now I'm expanded as a soul, as a human being.
Well, again, the experience, which ends up giving us more tools, more outlook on things to see, to grow. And, just because something negative has happened on one way, it doesn't mean that it has to reoccur.
That's right.
But it's becoming aware. So it's that word awareness is such an important word in all of our lives.
Yes.
Aware of what we do that is maybe bringing us down, what is, doing the same thing, those type of things that it's not building us. All of that is the important thing, so that we can start correcting that and changing ourselves.
That's right. And it doesn't have to take a long time. Sorry?
I'm saying not changing, but also building. So I think it's the word is not to just that we've got to be changing. It's progressing. It's becoming a more better you, or that's not even the word. You know what I'm saying?
It's the real you. It's the real you.
Yes.
Right.
It's the real you. I I do a thing on the future you, right? If you could talk to your future you, what would they tell you? And like magical stuff comes out of their mouths because they already know. It's
And
so
that's funny
cool.
because I do with writing a letter. That's one of the things, writing a letter to your future self. What would you say, or what do you want your future self to know?
Yes.
And it's such a really great tool that
Yes.
people will come away with. And the thing is when you start, you're putting some of your intentions out there. So you're building into something else that you want into your life.
Yes. You'd be surprised all the things that you already know, right? We
Yeah.
just because of patterns, seriously, because of patterns and coding, they're dormant, but they're already there. Like if I were to tell you they're already there, when I ask this question, if you were brave, what would you do? And then they'll say something. And so then we'll dissect that. And it comes out to, oh, okay, I could be doing it right now. It almost always. It's really interesting. Dr. Joe Vitale, I went to an academy called the Millionaire Mindset. So it's all about the mindset and how you think and how you start your intention. And he has an exercise like that you do it with a partner. You have a dialogue as if you've already done it. His example was he wanted to produce a music, like a record. I think it was a record, not a CD. And so you have the conversation as if you've already done it. So I would say, so Nicole, it was so cool to do this, produce this CD, and then she would pretend like I've already produced it and all the things we did to produce it. And so isn't that cool?
Yeah, very cool. I love that.
I thought that was such an interesting exercise. So you can do that with anything as if you've already done it and have the conversation with someone else, and magical things come to the surface. Now, and whether you manifest it just that way or a different way doesn't matter because it's already out there. It's quantum physics.
And that's when you have to get out of the way. You don't worry about that. You just get clear on what you want, state it, write it, however you want to do it, and then get out of the way. Surrender. Let the universe do it.
And that's where, groups like what we're doing here, that's where that really helps. There's 3 things that women really need to feel fulfilled, I believe. One of them, the first one is connection, which is what we're doing. Most women really have that need to connect. The second is actually contribution. So they want to, that's why they're great mothers, because they're contributing their time, their wisdom, their care, right? Whether you're doing it at the PTA or a mastermind, contributing, right? So it's connection, contributing, and collaboration. We love that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. If you don't, one of those is off, then you're not really feeling fulfilled. So creating that clarity is really important. So those buckets get filled, right? And having, someone to talk to, whether it's a group or a coach or whatever, is really important.
It's important to all of us. So I'm sorry to say that we are coming to the end of our time, and it's like I could go on for another hour, and maybe you'll be kind enough to come back to us another time when it's convenient to you, because just great conversation. And
I'll go to Toronto.
You're coming to Toronto?
I would love to go to Toronto. If I go to Toronto to meet Karen, oh my God, that would be so fun.
Okay.
Nicole, you'll have to meet us there.
Invitation is open. Yeah, well, let's all come.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Sandra, before we wind up, what golden nugget can you give to our audience today that would help them maybe in their journey of fulfilling themselves?
Yes. To remember that your magnificence is unique, and that is your superpower. So if you do 3 things, get clear, right, who you are and what you want to contribute, get focused, and get on purpose. Get clear, get focused, get on purpose, the doors will open up. because it's already happened. If you've had the thought, it's already there. It's already there on some level. All we
Yes.
got to do is step into it. That's it. And you'll
Absolutely.
be very surprised. And I want to
And
hear
it's,
about it.
yeah, how fast things turn. Thank you so much for joining us today.
you.
It's an absolute pleasure. And yeah, a woman who I'll definitely be tapping into from this point on. I really appreciate
Thank
you.
you. I'm the next one is a 3-day series, release and renew, and that'll be in April because April's all about renewal.
Mhm.
So I'll put it on I guess I can put the link or somewhere. I think we have the link how to reach out to me.
Yes, there's a link below of in the description, which has of how to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
So
If
that everybody
release,
get it.
yeah, release series, then we can sign up like that. I'd love to have people sign up. It'll be a free 3-day series.
Perfect. Love it.
I'm excited.
So am I. Woo!
Thank you, ladies. You were great. This was awesome.
We
Thank you for
enjoyed
what
it.
you do. It's so important. So important.
Well,
Thank
it's a time for us all to connect. And before we always end up, we always love to hear what Nicole, her last words are on this special topic today.
And you know what keeps coming to me, and I don't know if this is Wayne Dyer. It seems like it would be something he'd say, or at least he would know. But the saying is, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how strong our mind is. Our mind creates, not our brain, but our mind. And that's why we need that clarity. That's why we need, those thoughts to become crystal clear of what you want. And then you speak your truth and let that happen. And, she talked about helping people connect to their magnificent, and each and every one of us has magnificence in it. It is our birthright. It is what we come here for. Some of us don't know it till later. Some of us never stop to listen, to understand our magnificence, but we all have it. And if you haven't tapped into yours, listen to this again on how to do it, because your magnificence is waiting there. If you've already found it, congratulations.
Beautiful.
Keep
Thank you.
sharing it.
And yes, share it. Make sure that that you're tapping into it, because actually you're helping so many others out there.
That's what you guys are doing. That's what you ladies are doing.
That's why we started this. That was our whole goal. If we can just help one person, we're good.
Well,
Help many, even better.
Yeah.
That's the definition of leader. That's my definition of leadership, is creating an environment for champions. So you guys are both leaders, because that's what you're doing. You're creating an environment for people to shine.
It's what we're here. We're here to help you grow, to learn, and to, most importantly, just be here for you to, and hold space in any way we can. I want to thank you very much for everybody who's tuned in today. It was a beautiful day. And Sandra, you are just magnificent. And I really appreciate you joining us and empowering everybody who's listening. And for you out there, if you're still wondering what you're magnificent in, just like I said, go out there and try some new things. You never know what you're just going to enjoy. You might find something that changes your entire life.
Mhm.
Remember, it's all up to you, and you can do it. Stay tuned for next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.